Welcome, my dear students of class 9A and 9B, uh, to this class, a new lesson. I am going to introduce you. The name of this lesson is the Sangam Age in South India. There are 5 points as I mentioned in the board. Please look at it. These are the points. First point, introduction. Second point, meaning. Third point, 3 prominent kingdoms. Fourth point, role of the Tamil poets. And fifth point, important Sangam texts. These are the points, and name of the topic is Sangam Age in South India, chapter number 5. My dear students, in this chapter, while going for making an introduction, I would like to say to you that this chapter is very important. This is because the contributions of Tamil poets is very important. The contribution of Tamil poets, the poems of different Tamil poets, and the contribution of the Tamil kings. These are very important in the history of in Indian history, not only Indian history, but in not only South Indian history, but in the history of India. The first point, what is the introduction? You know, Tamil, once upon a time, the Tamil age, Tamil age highlighted their talents, their skills, their originalities in different fields. The Talkapiviam, written by Talkapiyar and 11 other scholars, as it is mentioned in the book, that Tamil grammar played an important role in the history during Sangam age. Among the oldest of the spoken literary languages of South India is Tamil. And the first and foremost, known phase of its literature is generally designated the Sangam literature, and this designated the Sangam literature for the reason of lyrics. The poets, they showed their technical talents, and in the lyrics they showed their originalities. And this vast literature was composed at a time when the Pandyan kings of Madurai patronized a number of eminent poets. Later Tamil poems, Tamil scholars used the term Sangam age, and this Sangam age denotes the association of scholars. So this is an introduction of the Sangam age. Second point, meaning. What is the meaning of the Sangam age? The meaning of Sangam age, what is the meaning of it? You know, the Sangam age has different meanings. What is the meaning of it? The word Sangam means confluence. Confluence means academy of people, a center of learning where people would come from different parts of India and receive education from that very academy or from that very educational center. That's why in ancient Tamil speaking areas in India, the ancient Tamil speaking areas, it is mentioned that spanned roughly from 3rd century BC to 3rd CE. And these centers, taught the students language, logic, not logic, language, they stressed on language, literature. Hence, Tamil poets and scholars in the city of Madurai patronized by the Pandyan kings. These poets had originality, they composed famous Sangam literature. Three prominent kingdoms flourished during the Sangam age. These were the Cheras, the Pandas, the Cholas. They all contributed a lot for the upliftment of Tamil poets. As a result, the Tamil poets also gave a birth of many poems of great beauty and charm. The Chera kingdom was the first kingdom of the south and important rulers of this very kingdom were Uday Cheralan and Nedu Cheral. The Cheras were defeated by the Pandas in the 4th century CE. The Pandyan king Nedunjelian was most famous ruler of this dynasty. The Cholas were settled along the Kaveri delta, and Karikal was their greatest ruler. From 300 CE, Cholas were subordinated by the Pallavas. So these were the three kingdoms were popularly known as Mahendar, meaning the three kings. And in addition to the Mahendar, in addition to the Mubhendar, there were some local chieftains who also ruled the neighboring kingdoms. As per legends, there were the three Sangam ages: head Sangam middle age, head Sangam, middle Sangam, and last Sangam. So Sangam age also was divided into three categories. Okay, so the first Sangam means head Sangam, middle Sangam means second Sangam, and third Sangam means last Sangam. And when we use the term Sangam or Sangam age, we usually refer to the last of this, as there is very less evidence to generate the information about the Sangam age. Only due to availability of less evidence about the Sangam age, we cannot explain various form of administration, what sort of administration during Sangam age the three kingdoms had framed, or three kingdoms had made. We don't have any idea of it. Simply we come to know about the patronization of the Sangam age and their rulers, and the upliftment of Tamil poets and their achievements of making a number of Tamil poems. And besides, one book also was prepared, that was grammar book. That very grammar book was the important part of Tamil literature and Tamil, because this grammar book gives a necessary information, and because they gave, in the beginning I told you that they gave importance to literature and language. The Tamil kings wanted to make the people learned through their mother tongues. That's why they gave importance in learning literature, language, and language was a part of grammar, That's why they made one book. The book was a grammar book. Panda King Sangam literature, Tirukural, the classic 1330 rhymes also were there. And Etul Thogai, Fatu Fatar, these were, and Tolka Payyam, these were the important books during the Sangam age. And Talka Payyam is the Tamil grammar book. And one of the significant characteristics of Sangam literary sources is that most of them they are very much interested, especially the kings of the Sangam age. They were very much interested to use the poetic talents, the literary skills of the poets. As a result, a number of good poems were made by the Tamil poets. And Tirukural was originally given the name Muppal, meant three parts, by its poet Tiruvalluvar. This Tiruvalluvar was a great poet during the Sangam age. This is because the Tiruvalluvar also wrote many poems and also insisted other poets writing more and more, poems. And as a result, the Tamil poets wrote poems after poems with great beauty and charm. The first section deals with ethics and virtues. From this, many books were written by Thiruvalluvar himself, and he also encouraged others to write books, to write poems. That's why that's why during Sangam age, so many poems were written and so many books also were made by the Tamil poets. Besides, the Tamil poets gave importance to narrate the nature and its beauty. Nature, flora, fauna, its beauty, flowers of their different colors, these are described in their poems. And these were encouraged by, who encouraged it to do it so? The Pandya kings, the Chera kings, the Chola kings, the three prominent kingdoms who ruled during Sangam age. They encouraged Tamil poets to describe about nature, to describe about human feelings, to describe about human emotions. So these were, vividly described in the poems of Tamil poets. As a result, Tamil poems had become very much attractive. Their main aim was to make it attractive towards their readers, because people already received knowledge of Tamil literature. So many books were there, so many teachers were there who gave importance to Tamil speaking, to Tamil language. So people received the knowledge of Tamil language. As a result, they came to know about the concept and content of the books written by Tamil poets, and the poems whatever they wrote, it also attracted thousands of readers who read the Tamil poems and attracted, and these kind of things became possible only because of the kings, the three prominent kingdoms and their rulers. They patronized the Tamil kings. They encouraged them to write, and hence during the Sangam age, people were satisfied, and they had enough time to pass their off time. During leisure, they used to read poems written by Tamil poets. And another point, role of the Tamil poets. Tamil poets not only wrote poems, they also narrated Tamil, their subject matter of their poems to the court of different kings. The kings were invited to clarify some poems which they could not understand. The Tamil poets would come to their court and explain it in various forms, by giving a number of examples, by giving a number of instances. Suppose one Tamil poet wrote about a poem based on nature, flora and fauna, or emotional human emotion, human sentiments. So it was his duty to make it clear to the king if once the poet is called by the king. So in front of the king, he was allowed to sit in the chair, and and by sitting on the chair, the Tamil poet had to clarify the subject matter of his poem, and it was and the satisfaction of the king depended on how much he was satisfied, and the explanation which was made for the satisfaction of the king also uh, also you know made him gainer, because he was gifted by the king. If king was satisfied hearing the explanation of that very poet, in that case the king might the king might give valuable gifts to the respective poets, and in that case the poets also would become benefited. And besides, another point, in the Talkaipayam, Talkapiyam is one of the earliest works of the, as I mentioned, on the grammar of the Tamil language. So the author, Talkapiyam comes from the combination of two Tamil words, Tonmai and Kapiyam. Tonmai means insistence, and Kapiyam means literature. So they gave importance uh, to learning grammar properly, so that they could speak correct Tamil language, Tamil words, and they could understand properly. They could read Tamil poems properly, and they could become educated. That's why the role of Thiruvalluvar is very important. Thiruvalluvar not only encouraged others, but he also wrote himself many books. That's why Thiruvalluvar has become a great personality in the history of South. This is because the books of Thiruvalluvar is divided into three sections. The first section deals with ethics and virtues. The second section, the second part, pertains to good governance and wealth management. And third one, he mentioned in third one is for human emotions, human love, romance, these, etc. And the poems, which were the most important part of Tamil literature, Sangam poetry, and these were also broadly divided into two categories. On the basis of topics with which, poems deal with personal and human, feelings, human sentiments. And another one that was very important, the poems also narrated the human experience, such as heroism, ethics, philanthropy, social life and customs. These all were explained by the Tamil poets in their poems. But who motivated them to do it so? The three prominent kingdoms and their rulers. The rulers of three prominent kingdoms motivated them to do it so. That's why the poems during Tamil age had become very much attractive to the readers, for the readers, and readers, receive proper knowledge by reading the poems written by Tamil poets. Another point is that importance of Sangam texts. What were the importance of Sangam texts? The Sangam text is important because these were written by Tolkapaiyar and 11 other scholars. This is the work of Tamil literature, Tamil grammar, Tamil sociology, and it is the it is the earliest Tamil literary works and the fountain of all literary conventions in Tamil literature. The Agathivian in Tamil literature played an important role. The Agathivian was written by the Agathivian was a book. It was written by some Tamil poets. It was a bunch of books, and this Agathivian was written by Saint Agathian. It was a work of grammar also, grammar of letters and life. And Pattu Pattu means ideals is the major part of Tamil literature, collection of Sangam works. That's why these are the long poems, gave vivid expression, vivid impression of the kings, the fight between different kingdoms, and the role, bravery, and skills of the kings. These also had become the subject matter of their poems. As a result, these poems also had become very much attractive to the readers, and so it is regarded as the word of great importance. And the Sangam texts reflect the condition of social and political life which existed when the Panda kings patronized the Sangam poets. Total collection of poems were about 2,200 approximately. I am telling you 2,279 and 473 great poets. Besides 102 antonymous poets also were there. The Sangam was an assembly of Tamil poets and held under royal patronage of the kings. The tradition says that there were some assemblies of the contemporary age used to call, assembly for the Tamil poets who would come and embrace the court of Tamil kings. That's why there was no definite evidence about the dates and places as to why and where the Sangam assemblies held, but there were no certain historical events were there to explain the assemblies places where assemblies held and under whose patronage, under whose care the assemblies were held for the Tamil poets. And another thing is that the Tamil literature produced by the scholars are the chief source of our information about the activities of common people and the conditions of the kingdoms of the south. Later on, these poems were, published in 8 separate volumes. From these poems, we get most of our knowledge, most about the kingdoms of different kings like Cholas, Pandas, Cheras, etc. These poems also describe the wars that the kingdoms of the Chola, the Pandas, and the Cheras fought with one another. That is why, according to the other Tamil poems, the description of different wars of different, Tamil kings and its poems, attracted the readers a lot. Readers would like to read such kind of poems where there were many descriptions of wars of different kings of Sangam age. So these are today up to this, my dear students. Next day, the remaining points I shall explain you. If you have any problem, any difficulty, you let me know. I shall clarify you later during my live class. I shall clarify you. Okay? If you have any problem. Thank you. Thank you so much.